What's up? Welcome to Flow Tricks. It's Ken. So I was trying to get this live stream like an hour ago, and apparently YouTube has changed, or my broadcaster's changed. Something has definitely changed, and the software was totally wonky. You don't need to hear the backstory too much. Just know I was like being a super tech nerd trying to get this stream to work just so I could say hi to you all again. We're in the middle of the year, and I hope you guys are spinning your nunchucks and getting all the kinds of crazy techniques. This is an AMA, Ask Me Anything. You can basically ask me any question you want, preferably nunchuck related or ninja related, flow, performance, anything like that. I'm more than happy to help. Love answering questions. You know, like I said, I've been doing this like 10 years, so sometimes I think the best way for me to help you guys at this point is not necessarily to make the same videos of things that I've done or to make new combos of the same things, but just to talk to you all directly and see what you need help with. That way I can help you guys on an individual level, reteach some old tricks, etc., etc. With that said, this is completely open space, so feel free to ask me any questions. I'm going to give a shout out here. I see Santiago's online. What's up, man? It's been a minute. So, and like I said, I haven't been online as much. Work got a little bit busy, which is pretty cool. Been going out of town. Been into Orlando and doing a lot of trips to Kansas City as well. But I'm back, and I wanted to share some techniques with you. Until I get some questions, please feel free again to... I'm mostly looking at YouTube, but if you're on Facebook, feel free to go on Facebook and ask me whatever questions you want to. I'll try to keep up, but I'll answer the YouTube questions first. So if you're on YouTube, please feel free to ask whatever you want. Or just message if you found some cool video, or if you tell me what you're learning or working on, all of it. Like, I just want to hear it. Also, let me know if this is even working, for that matter. I've had to change the way. So, long story short, I use something called XSplit to send to YouTube, and YouTube was rejecting it. So I had to do this backdoor route, and hopefully this works. Hopefully the sound's coming in and everything's going good. But let me know if it doesn't. I think it's working fine on YouTube, or on Facebook, but YouTube is definitely having some issues. Give me just a minute here. Boom. Okay. So, ask away. Until then, I guess I'll just start working on a few things. I'll start teaching. Lately, I've been doing a lot more doubles. You may have noticed that these chucks look a little bit different. This is a prototype nunchuck that Dark Monk has been making. I asked him to try to make me some smaller, lighter chucks, and this is what he came up with. And they feel pretty good. There's some changes that I would recommend, but that'll be for later. For doubles nunchucks, I really like them, but there's some, like all nunchucks, there's strengths and there's weaknesses, and the whole point of like having different pairs of nunchucks, like you have oaks, you have these, you have fire, you have glow. All of them are gonna have different builds, different feels, different balances. You know, where you find that balancing point in the center, different parts where you need to grip it. So the most important thing isn't always necessarily having the perfect chuck, more as learning to adapt around whatever chuck you pick up. Hey, it's just the box. Welcome. No, this is a totally impromptu video, so I'm not going to be surprised if there's not a lot of people this time. It's an odd time to choose. I had some free time, and I thought we'd go over it. So lately what I've been working on, I've been doing a lot of doubles work lately, and most of it, as you probably have already seen, has to do with the old split time opposites that most nunchuckers do a lot. I just started wondering, well, what about all the other patterns? And so I've just been playing around with so this is basically going to be same, what is this? This is split time, same direction hand rolls. So these are very similar to this one, except for there's one bounce. There's one bounce with my right hand, which allows them, basically they're both going either clockwise or counterclockwise, as opposed to the normal way. One chuck is going clockwise and the other's going counterclockwise, which allows you to get this really sweet move. But the thing is this one is cool and all, but there's three different more variations, and they're not utilized very much. And that is obviously going to be this direction here, where both hands are going, well, again, they're both going counterclockwise. The opposite, where they're both going clockwise, and that'll be kind of similar. Oop. Good old lefty. I tell you what, this left hand right here is struggling with that move. I still need to practice that. And then Then there's going to be the reverse version of it, where instead of the chucks going upwards, they're going downwards, and I still haven't quite, something like that. Something like that. I haven't put together that one. It's basically the opposite of this one, figure 8 wrist rolls going up. We're basically looking at figure 8 wrist rolls going down. All of these are just parts of the same pattern. Let me try to think how, yeah, that'd be like this. Whoosh. Good old lefty again. Let's see here. Have not been working on that one, as you can obviously tell, but it's just like we've been doing this move for a decade now. What about all the other 3? Like, they feel so neglected. I thought I would try to like work on that. And then the other thing I've been working on is going to be basically from a weave. If you follow my Instagram, you've probably seen this. If you're doing the weave, you can do this stuck under the arm throw. I do it often, just whoosh and catch it. So I'm gonna call this the prerequisite. Like, if you've done doubles, that's probably one of the first throws you learn. Just over and under. So basically what's happening is our arms are starting off crossed from a 3-beat weave. Our arms are crossed, they uncross, and then the moment they start to cross again, usually that's when you turn to the other side to make another to add your 3-beat weave on the opposite end, and the cross and uncross, cross and uncross. But what we do here is, instead of turning, we just flick the hand over so it becomes a throw underneath. So in this way, you can continue, your other hand can continue the motion, because you're basically, once you release it, once your hands are crossed and you let the throw go, you can release it, and the other hand can continually move in this circular pattern. So they're 2 opposing circular forces, almost ready to crash, and then you flick it, and then you get out of the way, and then you catch it. And that's kind of how that throw works. So it's like, whoosh, get ready, they're about to crash right here, flick it up, whoosh, catch it. So, like that, right? There's another throw, and I really like it. The second throw is going to be the exact opposite. So we're coming from the outside, and this one is going to be my left hand. My left hand is tucking under, flicking up, and I'm catching it from an open. So basically we start crossed and we throw it. The other one is you throw it and then you catch it crossed, and that would be with the opposite hand. So if I'm using this hand, it would be the right hand, and it's going to fling up and over like this, up and over. But then we're going to kind of fling it over past our other arm. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try to make this circular motion with the left arm, while the right arm flings it over, and we're going to try to catch it from underneath right here. So it'll be whoosh, like that. Oops. And then the full motion will look like this: 1, 2. And again, I haven't perfected this because I haven't. It's one I have to warm up to, but you see, you have like this 1, 2 throw that happens basically, which will be your hands crossed, you do the throw, you catch it to the outside, and the moment you catch it, the other chuck should be flying in the air, and you get ready for the second catch. So it'll look like this. We have chucks in both hands. In slow motion, it's going to be throw, and as this starts to fly in the air, the chuck's flying in the air. The moment this is around 6 o'clock, throw it from here, and then the other hand's already catching that one, and then the other one's going to catch as well. So it'll be throw, throw, catch, catch, throw, throw, catch, catch. Throw, throw. I'll be honest, heavier chucks work a lot easier. Lighter chucks, in my opinion, lighter, grippier chucks are a little bit harder to pull this move off, but it'll look something like that. And so yeah, that's just another thing to practice. So basically we have the throw from underneath the crossed arm. Also try to figure out a throw and catching it crossed, which is the exact opposite. Whoosh. It feels so much easier if I just do it in flow as opposed to slowing it down sometimes. I don't know. I just have that certain speed and flow. So there you go. That's something to work on. Excuse me. I'm just gonna warn you right now. I'm gonna drop these chucks a little bit because they're a little bit different style than what I'm used to, and they tend to fly out of my hands a little bit more. So as you can see, like just from my wrist rolls, this is a prototype model though, so I am testing it out. I'm gonna give my research, tell them things I liked and things I could improve. But you're gonna notice my wrist rolls sometimes this chuck will fly out of my hands just because it's just the right space to get around my knuckle, but then it just kind of wraps and bounces. It's hard to describe. Anyways, this is an AMA again, ask me anything, so please feel free to ask whatever questions you have. I see a couple posts, so I'm going to say some shout outs or hello. All right, Lawrence says, quick tutorial behind the neck. And It's Your Boy Johnny says, whoa, cool. Yeah, man, this is a cool move, for sure. I really dig doubles. I think doubles is like very flashy and it's a little bit trickier than singles. But with singles, you get to use your body more. So I also feel like, especially if you're performing it in front of people, you can really showcase a lot. Like you can really like throw in a lot. I don't know, it's hard to describe. I feel like with doubles, you kind of have patterns and you're stuck in the patterns. You have to wait for the pattern to open up before you can move. With singles, you always have that control. You can always just grab it and stop it because you have both hands. So it's a lot easier to maintain control and move your body. That's just my personal opinion, but I think that there's advantages to singles and doubles as well. So, behind the neck is a quick tutorial for behind the neck. My question for you, Lawrence, is when you're talking about a behind the neck, are you talking about like a behind the neck pass here? Like this kind of thing? If you were talking about a behind the neck pass, hold on, give me a second here. Get a little spoiled. I'm gonna try these chucks here just because these are my old tried and true trusty ones. All right, if we're talking about behind the neck pass, it's as simple as thinking of straight lines, okay? So if my chuck, actually let me lower this a little bit. I see that this may be getting in the way. If my chuck is down by my right hip right here, right? We're moving it straight up in a line like so. Usually this becomes an over the shoulder pass. So hip to shoulder, very straight line. Do you see how this, if I were to draw it, it'd be a very straight line, right? And that with that straight line, basically when it rests on the back of the shoulder, we're creating a second straight line. And think of it almost like a sword slash. So as we spin the chuck, we're gonna take our thumb and we're just gonna kind of smear it horizontally this way. This needs to be just as straight as this. So this is straight up, this is straight across. Keep that in mind because the biggest mistake people will make with this move, with the behind the neck pass, is they're gonna come up vertically or diagonally, I mean. And with this, what happens is the more diagonally up you go, the more diagonally down it goes behind your back. So it needs to be very straight. We're gonna swing it across. So you're gonna notice my thumb slashes forward and then it starts to tuck behind me, almost like I'm about to choke myself. And that's pretty much what you're gonna do, is kind of choke yourself. But before you do so, you might hit yourself in the face like this. So the next thing you need to do is the moment you swing it up, your hand is gonna check right by your cheek. This is your check hand. This means you can swing your chucks almost as hard as you want because this hand will protect your face. So what you do is you put it by your cheek and then you just cushion it just outward just a little bit because obviously you need a little bit of room to catch it. You don't want it stuck to your face. Just a little bit like this, nice and comfortable. And you're gonna make that horizontal swing again and you're just gonna see if it can land in your open hand. Don't worry about catching it right now. So again, straight up, whoosh. Get the check hand ready and it's gonna happen simultaneously like this. And then follow it through almost like you're choking yourself. What you're gonna look like is your elbows are gonna kind of crisscross into each other like this. And if you just give it just enough oomph, it should fly all the way over to your other hand and then you clasp it down, you grab it down. From there you let go with the other hand and then you can do your diagonal slash from the shoulder down to the hip and you have it nice and easy. So here, cross, down. Slow motion, up. Here comes the check hand, here comes the other hand, whoosh, grab, slash, like that. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that was your question. I'm gonna assume the behind the neck is the behind the neck pass. E. Salmon says, do you prefer rope or chain or what's the best? So if you go through my old videos, I almost always exclusively use chain. For maybe 6 years, everything was chain. And now if you look at my videos, all I use is rope, and I'll tell you why. I am a big rope fan. There's a couple things you cannot do with a rope, but for the most part, the flexibility of the rope is very good. It's very good. And also, the thing I like about rope is when it starts to wear and tear, you can see it. You'll see the frays inside the rope itself. The problem that I have with chain is I've destroyed so many chain chucks and I didn't see it coming because just one day the ball bearings will give out and the little tab will break off and your chuck will go flying in some random place. Here I kind of know when the chuck's about to break because it'll start to fray. I'll see the rope start to get a little bit loosened up and then I know, oh, time to change the rope. So my preference is rope. Things that use digital, like digit spins, like finger wheels or anything dealing with sun waves, moon waves, any of these kinds of manipulations are a lot easier because it's foldable and flexible. Makes it a lot easier. Now the thing I like about chain, I mean, it's not all bad. Here, here's a chain chuck. There's a few things that I like about chain, but the one thing you cannot do, I don't know if you can see this, one thing you cannot do with rope very easily are these little spin-offs right here. See that? You can actually, and it's not used too often unless you're in a fire performance. If you do a fire performance, that's a great way to make a huge plume of fire, which is a totally different ballpark. But the ability to spin these things, because they have, what do you call them? God, I can't even think. Ball bearings, sorry. I was trying to think. Swivels? No. Because they have ball bearings, allows them to rotate horizontally, which, so if you have like a design that's striped, you can capitalize it and give like little, you can add spins to your strikes that you can't do with ropes. I find that to be pretty nice. I also tend to think that the 7 links is just the perfect size for me. So I love like my chain unwinders. I will say they like grind the hand a little bit more. Like you can feel that chain because it doesn't want to fold like a rope. It does grind the hand, grind against the bones a little bit easier, but all of this you can get used to all of it. And man, it's been a while since I've used this guy. So I'm gonna say it really just depends on your preference. Generally speaking, I prefer rope, but chain, you're fine. The only thing is just keep in mind if you start feeling a little bit of friction here, like if you feel friction as it spins, chances are it could break. And so if you have heavy chucks especially, dude, I have kicked chucks. I did the stall one time and I kicked the chuck and the whole thing just, half of my nunchuck flew like maybe 20 feet one direction. And if someone was there, it would have been out of a comedy movie, they would have been knocked out and I would have felt horrible. But there's also something called speed cream that you can use if you do have these chain chucks. Speed cream is just basically a cream that skateboarders use. So you use them in the ball bearings of skateboards. Also makes your chuck super smooth, super light. I will say, like, if you have like a fresh ball bearings with a chuck, and you do have like some sort of lubrication for the rotation, it does feel like a different kind of animal. So I can understand why you'd want that over rope. So, but it's all stylistic, really. After that point. All right. So you're welcome, Lawrence. Glad I could be of help. I'm glad that was the move you're asking for too. There's a lot of behind the neck passes. Just for fun, I can show you too. Once you get the hang of this one, right? We're thinking straight lines. You can continue this straight line. So we're making a straight line coming from the hip to the shoulder, like we've been doing. And then we create the straight line. Again, this time we're going horizontal. So we're like straight line up and down, straight line horizontal. And once we do this horizontal catch, what you can think of is when you release, you can go across that straight line again, but you have to find a way to catch it in reverse grip because now your other hand is trying to catch it from the same side. Easy to catch from here. But if you hold your hand up like this, you can also practice a secondary catch from there. So we'll go up, cross, and then as this swings around, we're basically doing a very similar motion to get it behind, except for you're going to notice my elbow's going to be sticking out because this one has to kind of choke myself because it's crossing my body. This one has to do the opposite. It has to open up like a wing because it's on the same side of my body, and it's going to wrap around like this. Now I'm going to have my hand in reverse grip, so what I can do is I can practice grabbing it from this direction. And you can practice this move. It's a lot harder to do, but it's still a good one to learn. You can practice it by simply holding it in front of your hand like this, in front of your face, and then rotating it, so you can catch it from behind. In front, and in the back. In front, and in the back. There's a video I have, probably a couple videos, but the video basically looks like this. Catch, catch, then my elbow tucks over the top, and then it's going to be a back to front hand roll, and then it becomes a hyper style move where it does a bounce from my tricep, redirects out, and catches. So again, the whole combo will be behind the neck pass, reverse behind the neck pass, tuck through, we're going to do back to front hand roll, and then we're going to do that 3-hit hyper bounce, which is going to be tricep, lift, push, where it bounces off the delt, and back. Again, this combo looks like this. And one motion, it looks like this. Which is pretty sweet, right? Like nice and slow though, looks like this. The trick is when you bounce it, catch it just a little bit farther out. It'll look better than if you just did this, right? Just really kind of, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna kind of reach out a little bit more. Like that. And then the whole move will look like 1, 2, 3, 4. That's fast motion. But this is YouTube, so you can play that in slow motion if you want to when it repeats. So, It's your boy Johnny says, how long have you been spinning nunchucks for? So, I've done martial arts since I was about 8 years old. I'm in my 40s now. I've done martial arts since I was about 8 years old, and I did it seriously for 13 years. And then I did this style, the flow art style, which is more like creative weapons. I've done that for about 13 years. So a long time. It was really the creative weapons, though, the last 13 years where I really started to try to... My goal with that was just to create my own style. Like, I wanted to do my own... I don't know, man. I just had nunchucks and I fell in love with it. So a lot of these moves came from me just sitting locking myself in my bedroom and just trying to, like, come up with something new or original, you know? Something that I haven't seen. I'm not saying I made up a lot of it. I mean, who knows if people made it up in the past. I just know that, like, most of the time I wasn't looking for people to show me. I was just sitting in my room exploring and trying to figure out if I could come up with something new. All right. So Oliver asked if I do XMA nunchucking, and I don't. Going back to where I came from before, I didn't start nunchucks realizing that I was going to do it. I was just doing it for fun, and then finding out all these crazy cool things that you could do with it. I had no idea that it would turn me into a performer where I could actually be a full-time performer and a full-time YouTuber. None of that. So, like, I didn't take it seriously enough to think that I would even be good enough to do XMA chucking. I just wanted to, like, do my own style. So I never actually learned XMA. I haven't really learned any formal much of anything, really. I mean, when I was in martial arts, I was constantly corrected because I held too high. You know, like, because the martial arts, when I was studying nunchucks and martial arts, you always held low because that's where the power was. That's where you can do that extra striking force. So I got constantly corrected in martial arts because a high hold you really do lose out a lot of power. You get a lot more flash and you get a lot more control, but if you want power, man, you hold low. That way you can really snap it and just whip those chucks out. So yeah, the first 13 years I was constantly corrected for my chucking, and then the second 13 years I just locked myself up and decided I'd just kind of come up with my own thing. So no, long story short, I don't know much XMA. Be cool if I did, though. Thanks, Santiago. Do you oil your nunchucks? I used to. Most of the time I go to rope now, though, so I don't need to. Like, you only have to use oil if you have these little guys right here. You know, if you're using the good old chain. Give me just a second. I'm also going to check on Facebook really quick just to make sure I'm not missing any questions. Give me do that extra striking force. So I got constantly... Aha! I do have a question. Okay. Steve says... What's up, Steve, by the way? Steve says... and sorry, I know I'm like 15 minutes late. Like I said, my YouTube messages my Facebook messages are a little bit later. With all the technical difficulties I have, you should see my setup. I have multiple screens up right now trying to figure out how to get this to work because my streaming software rejected YouTube. Steve says, hey brother, love your chuck and sword work. Non-chuck question, do you or have you trained in spear, quarterstaff, or thrown weapons? I mean, I used to train throwing knives, but all of that was just kind of in my spare time. I haven't taken any formal lessons of much of anything. I did do a little bit of nunchucks formally through RBWI Ninjutsu. I did a lot of knife and stick drills. So I studied a little bit of Kali, which is pretty much all like learning how to fight with knives and sticks, which I thought was pretty badass. Matter of fact, I think a lot of my speed came from my Kali training way back in the day. But outside of that, no, I haven't really done a whole lot outside of just exploring it on, like, when I went to the flow art side of things, but all of that's just going for fluidity. It's totally different. I probably would have I've seen some, like, XMA people, and I really want to pick up some of their tricks, too. I just haven't really gone that route. And you guys know, like, life gets busy. Absolutely. Michael says, that's sick. Thanks, man. Much appreciated. Give me just a second, y'all. I'm just going to make sure I didn't miss any other messages here. So, there we go. Okay, I've got like 4 different places where I have to check for messages. All right. Again, if you're just joining us, welcome. This is Ken with Flow Tricks. It's been a little while, so I wanted just to reach out and say hi to everyone and get all of your nunchuck questions answered, or anything, really. It's an Ask Me Anything, so you can ask me whatever you want. Happy to help. If you want immediate answers, go to the YouTube page. That's a lot faster. If you don't mind waiting a little bit, you can also ask on Facebook. I just have to kind of fish for it. All right. Oliver Lawrence says, I'm impressed with your sense of presentation, like knowing that holding your hand further makes it look better. Thank you. Yeah. So and it's really interesting, but because I've been a full-time performer for a little while, you'll realize that presentation is everything. Like, if you look at my old videos of nunchucks, I was a lot more technical and I did a lot more challenging things. But in the last 7 years or so of my spinning, I've more focused on trying to make sure it looks presentable and looks good and it moves to the music. So a lot of things help. And besides that, like if we're doing art, right? I mean, it just makes sense. If you're doing a song, right? You don't want to say you write music, right? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But you don't want to write the most complicated song with your most complicated chords and make it the biggest, that's not what's epic, right? You want it to move and you want it to feel something. So then you start thinking, well, how can I use the space around me to actually make people feel stuff? And for me, it's there's a different vibe. Even if I'm looking left, than if I'm just kind of looking casually forward, it's just a different vibe, right? Or even just the way I stop. There's so many different little cues that you can get to create this presence of power or whatever you're trying to do, really. I mean, for me, I always like fierce, so I try to go for that tribal element, Yeah, that's a whole nother ballpark. I love talking about it, though. Presentation and performance is definitely one of my passions. OG Lesk says, have you ever had to defend yourself with nunchucks? Never. I've never had to. I've definitely done drills on the bag with it, and I haven't really sparred with nunchucks. I have only a couple times in my life. So, but honestly, I don't know, man. You should, if you see by my bed, I have all kinds of weapons, and I don't know if chucks would actually be the first thing I would grab. Like I said, I trained in knife and stick fighting, so not that I would grab a stick, but I have a couple machetes and knives hanging around, and I'd probably grab those first. So, not saying that nunchucks are if I had one around, I definitely feel like I could use it effectively against an opponent. My first one would probably be a knife or something big and sharp, self-defense wise. It's your boy Johnny says, could you do a little tutorial on the 3-beat weave and some tips? I'm sorry, I have to disappear every time because my monitor's off site. Could you go a little tutorial on 3-beat weave and put some tips on how to improve how it looks? I'm trying double nunchucks lately and my 3-beat weave is pretty off. Yeah, 3-beat weave is one of the hardest, in my opinion, to teach because some people say it's a feeling thing. It's not necessarily a feeling thing, it's a flow thing. But I've had to teach this a lot, so hopefully I can help you out. When you think of a 3-beat weave, first, you gotta forgive yourself. Forgive yourself don't be so hard on yourself for looking sloppy because your muscle needs to get the memory. And as you build that muscle memory, then your sloppiness will go in. So when you start working on the 3-beat weave, what I'd like you to think about is make it sloppy, make it big, make it bigger and sloppier than you need to. And then as you get better, slowly hone it down until you reach a point, until you reach the edge where you can't control it very much. So what I mean is, if your 3-beat weave's big and sloppy and it kind of feels like this, which is kind of how I see 3-beat weaves, that's okay, man. But what I'd like you to focus on is, if you notice, 3-beat weaves make circles, right? So if I'm facing this direction, a 3-beat weave makes a circle like this. My arms are crossed, my arms are uncrossed, and then the moment they cross again, they go to the other side. But what you'll see are two circles, right? And basically, what I'm trying to say is start with bigger circles. They're gonna look sloppier, but to get these tight ones like this, basically you want to start big and start shrinking that circle down until you're stuck, until you start to stumble a little bit, and then hold that circle until you get comfortable with it. And then you see where I'm going with this. Widen it back out, close it in a little bit more, widen it back out, close it in a little bit more, and eventually you'll be able to get nice tight 3-beat weaves. Some tricks for 3-beat weaves is always remembering that you're creating two circles though. If we're to use one nunchuck and you do a figure 8, it's very similar to a 3-beat weave. A figure 8 is basically you're creating a circle to the right side of your body, you're creating a circle to the left side of your body. If I was to stand here, you'll notice there's a circle to the right side, and then as I swing it down, there's a circle to my left, right? This is something that can't be forgotten when you're doing a 3-beat weave. So you have 2 chucks, and it's the exact same idea. You want to keep your chucks on the same circular plane. So that means, like, if I was standing, this is a great training tool and it's really hard to do, but if you have a hallway, stand in the same direction of your hallway, so your walls are this direction, and see if you can create 2 circles on the right side of your body and 2 circles on the left side of your body. You don't even have to do the 3-beat weave with this. You're just basically working your planes, because if you can't work your planes well enough on each side of your body, then what's going to happen is when your hands are going to swing, they're going to go a little bit more diagonally, and they're going to have like this long elongated chasing mechanism as opposed to a very straight. And if you look really closely, you're going to see, I'm going to turn to the side, if you look really closely, you're going to see that they're very circular. And I would like everyone to consider this, because even if you can nail that 3-beat weave, solid planes and like flat circles constitutes for almost like 50 to 60% of the moves. So if you can nail that hallway training out, like, it's going to help you with so many moves. So the idea is very simple. Think big circles, right? We're going to go big and sloppy. That's okay. Big sloppy circles, really elongate it. And then just remember, you start cross. So if I'm on my right side, left hand is above, right? Left hand's above, right hand's below. We start crossed, uncross, keep going. Don't do it yet. Most people that are starting out have this urge to swing it over from here. Wait till you're almost completely crossed over again. So cross to uncross, wait for it, and the moment you start to cross again and your arm's about to get stuck, that's when this shoots down and we come over to the other side, and then we repeat it. We're crossed here, uncross, right? This is where people usually shoot over to the other side, but don't do it yet because you haven't finished the beat. You gotta wait for it until it's almost completely over, and then shoot it down to the other side, and the other hand's gonna follow. I'm gonna stand over here to show you again, because this isn't the proper plane. So, left hand's on top, right hand's on bottom, uncross, get ready, don't do it here, keep going. It's almost like hands of a clock. Now that your arms are crossed over, your left hand's just gonna kind of flick up with it. I mean, when you're moving fast, it's just gonna look like this, right? But going slowly, my hand's just gonna have to flick. So the moment it just starts to cross over, this hand's gonna follow the trajectory, and we're basically going from shoulder to the hip. And then we're gonna cross and uncross. And remember that, shoulder to the hip, to the other side. So if I was standing here, cross and uncross, it doesn't have to perfectly be at the shoulder or it'll be super high, but pull it down to the hip, and then uncross and cross, and again, down to the hip. And then as you start to accelerate your speed, it'll look kind of sloppy, and that's okay. Like I said, make big sloppy circles. But eventually, you'll get more comfortable and it'll start to look a little bit better. Remember, once you get comfortable with this pattern, then your focus is on making flat circles on both sides. You really want those planes. You really don't want diagonal, you don't want this kind of diagonal motion over here. You don't want this, you want this. Very straight, very straight, very straight all the time. And that's what's gonna give you the clean look of the 3-beat weave. Now there's more to it, but I think that's pretty in-depth to start. Without having seen your video, I think that would be a good place to start. Clean planes, big circles. As you get better, make the circle smaller and smaller until it's all the way down to your fingertips. When you're down to your fingertips, then you can do all those cool moves. You can do all those cool tight moves. Start big. All right. Give me just a second here. I'm just gonna see if I got any questions on the old Book of Faces. Super high, but pull it down to the hip. All right. No Book of Face questions. Cool. All right. Sergian, what's up? Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in ages. It's great to see you on. OG says thanks. Oliver says, I'm starting to do the reverse 3-beat. Is there an easy way to explain how to think or simplify it? So, okay. Yeah, there's a very easy way to simplify a 3-beat weave. Of course there is. The 3-beat weave, oh my gosh, let me tell you, the reverse 3-beat weave took me a while to learn because I was stubborn and I could not get my brain to wrap around it. But when you start thinking about the very simple concept of a 3-beat weave, you know you're doing a 3-beat weave right when you're doing the exact opposite of you know you're doing the reverse 3-beat weave right when you're doing the exact opposite of the regular. So let's analyze the regular and then I'll show you how to get the reverse. The regular 3-beat weave, right? We're always kind of slashing down when the right hand's at 12 o'clock, right? So the right hand's at 12 o'clock and it starts to slash down to 6 o'clock. So I'm thinking of hands of a clock, 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. So if I'm standing here and my right hand is at 9 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 12 o'clock, we're getting ready for that downward trajectory to go to the other side, right? So we're always kind of slashing down, down, down. So a 3-beat weave is a downward slash, right? You just really want to think downward, because when you're talking about the reverse 3-beat, if you're slashing downward, you're doing the regular. And that's where things get confused, because once you get the 3-beat weave, your natural motion of your muscles is going to want to keep slashing down, but the reverse 3-beat slashes up. So we're talking hip to shoulder, hip to shoulder. So what you're going to do a 3-beat weave, and then stop it for a second, right? And then what I'd like you to do is just kind of, I'd like you to stop it the moment you fully cross over where you would have twisted to the other side. So what I mean to say is start with your regular 3-beat. We're going to start with the left hand on top, right hand on bottom, because that's how you start the 3-beat, right? I mean, there's lots of ways to start, but this is how we're going to start. Kind of open it up and close it, but don't do anything. Stop right there. This puts us in a reverse direction. Pretty simple, right? Left hand's on top, now the right hand's on top. This is where we want to start. So if you ever get confused on how to start the reverse 3-beat, just remember start a regular 3-beat, but don't cross over. Just go until your arms cross the opposite direction, and then you're in your starting position. The next thing to remember is we're going the opposite direction. So now my right hand is going backwards while my left hand is going forwards until what happens? Until we're at 6 o'clock down below here. Remember, again, just like the regular 3-beat, don't cross over when both your arms are open. It starts cross, uncross, wait for it to almost cross again. The moment it almost crosses, what do? You slash up. So the simplest version of the reverse 3-beat is just remember, go the opposite way and slash up. And then you're going to be crossed over and it'll be the exact same thing. Uncross, wait for it to cross, wait for it to cross. Once it's starting to cross, slash up. And that will give you the reverse 3-beat. Again, if you're stuck again, remember, start with the regular 3-beat. Just go all the way over until they cross, but don't go to the other side. Now you're in the position for the reverse 3-beat. Open your arms, get them to cross, swing up, and then you're on the other side. Boom. Of course, it's going to take time, and your muscles are going to fight you. That's just part of the game. If you learn the 3-beat and you've been doing the 3-beat for a while and you haven't done the reverse 3-beat, the longer you've done the 3-beat, the more your muscles will fight you against the reverse. So do it nice and slow and teach your brain that you can go both directions. Yep. All right. Let's see. Santiago says, Ken, what is the ideal chain or rope length to your preference? Yeah, the ideal chain or rope length to me really depends. I generally like 7 links, or if I can make a fist, the chuck should just barely come down like this, right? So I have a little bit of slack. This allows me to do chain unwinders as well as like little manipulations and whatnot. So once you get longer than that, it gets a little bit harder, and it also gives the perfect length for hand rolls. Great length for hand rolls. Some people do use longer ropes. If you use longer ropes or chains, you can get double rolls in if you want to, like where you can just keep it going twice. Let me see. Like you can get more of a 2 rotations maybe, or you can do some other tricks, but then you're going to start losing the basic rolls. So longer generally is harder. And then we have shorter, which is actually part of the reasons why I'm fumbling with these chucks is because I asked Dark Monk to make it a little bit shorter. You can see I can't even grip these, right? So this means that since they're shorter, things like stalls are going to be a lot easier to do because there's less rope to like interfere with it folding and bending funky. So you have a little bit of control, and you can do cool things like these collapses will work a lot easier with short ropes. So there's a lot of good things about it. Generally speaking, you can go faster with short ropes as well. But then you lose out. You do lose out. Like your moon waves, like I can't even finish this moon waves. Like my thumbs are too fat. Or I should say the rope is too small. So you're going to lose out on some of the techniques. But the reason why I asked him to do this is because I'm using doubles, and my thought was I wanted to like create like these really nice hybrid stalls and patterns like this. So with these kinds of patterns, having shorter chucks, shorter chain or rope on chucks is generally beneficial. But I am losing out on more of the chain manipulation type stuff of the longer ones. Hopefully that helps. Let's see. OG says, Dad used to fight with them until the police confiscated them, and now was fined for having them. A real Filipino street fighter coming to America. Dang. Yep. I remember reading about that. I wasn't around for that, of course, but that just back in the days, like a lot of gangs even use nunchucks, and it's kind of weird, but that's kind of how. There's a time, half of the world had nunchucks banned, probably thanks to Bruce Lee, I'm assuming. But it's just kind of crazy to think that this was actually like a federal offense, which was like in America. There's still some places where it is illegal to have nunchucks, which blows my mind that you could have, a gun or a sword, but a nunchuck, no, too dangerous, right? It's just kind of crazy. It's your boy Johnny says, thanks a lot. Keith says, go big Ken. Gabriel, a warrior of power. Greetings. Ken. Welcome, all three of you. Gabriel, a warrior of power, huh? Sounds pretty awesome. It's your boy Johnny says, what are your go-to double nunchuck routines or tricks you like the most? I mean, that's a really hard one. Sometimes I think what people like to see and what I like to do are different. So, I mean, I like all the crazy, like, super fast, and I like to, like, kind of come up with creative. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to say is hyper style. I love hyper style. Anything that deals with bounces. I mean, we got the triangle bounces, seen that a lot, but I like the pattern, like the drum-like pattern of just being able to like bounce nunchucks from any direction. And it's just not just with these, but just even cross or over. Plus, you can get these nice, super fast flows with it. Besides that, I also just like throws. I just think double nunchuck throws are just really fun. As I drop them. I think chuck throws, like I said, I'm still getting used to these chucks. I think that's what it is. It's the shorter ropes. Something is getting me with these chucks where I'm dropping them more than any other chuck that I've used. I think it's the rope and the grip. Like, these are so grippy. Like, it's like almost stuck to my hand. Like, it's a silicone for sure, but it's super grippy. I don't really have a like. It just depends on what I'm feeling though. Like when I perform though, it's a lot of weaves and buzzsaws and all that kind of stuff. I also like, one thing I really enjoy doing is taking two patterns just because I like the challenge of it. So for instance, doing a figure eight wrist roll with one hand while doing a different pattern with the other. And just seeing like what kinds of interesting moves we can create by just having individual move sets. Having the left hand do something different than the right. I just find it interesting and fun. And also it kind of translates over because, say, if I was using something like a sword and a nunchuck, we can have like individual motions. So it doesn't have to be mirrored. So that way we're not like moving in the same direction. We have like all these interesting motions basically that we can do. So being able to liberate your hands, your left and your right hand, in my opinion, allows you to not only just do double chucks and make it interesting, but to be able to grab two different kinds of props. Like, here's a staff, here's an LED staff that may not last very long, but like even just being able to like, come up with like really interesting routines where the chuck and the staff or the other prop is doing two different things. To me, I find that looks really interesting. Now, don't get me wrong. When things move in the same direction, it's usually the best. Like this is, split opposites. Super cool. A lot of people do it. It's a mirror. But if you break your left and your right hand up, it allows you to explore, and you can even go to different props. Not just, you can put something else in your hands besides a nunchuck, and you can play around with that because you're operating in two different mindsets. All right, let's see. Oliver, thanks. The direction breakdown was what I was looking for. I've got a better idea how to do it now. I can feel my brain fighting me. You absolutely can. If you need to, remember too, you don't even need the chucks, man. All you need to do is remember right hand on top and then just swing up. Another thing is if you have a sword, it's really nice to just practice reverse figure eights with the sword because this is going to be the same direction from hip to shoulder. hip to shoulder. So like if you can get that same feeling down, it's the same as the reverse figure eight. We're coming up here, hip to shoulder, hip to shoulder. Or here even. I would say like you may not have a sword, but I'm just saying like sometimes the rope, the flexibility and the bendable rope can get in the way of the technique. So use a stick, use a sword, use something else just to get that feel, just to get that vibe down. All right, give me just a second here. I'm gonna check the good old book of faces again, just to make sure I don't have any questions. The rope, the flexibility and the bendable rope can get in the way. Sorry guys, this takes me a second. Like I said, if you're just joining, this is AMA, Ask Me Anything. Happy to answer your questions. I just thought it's been a while since I've been online and I wanted to say hi. I have been having some technical difficulties. My streaming software has been really angry at me today, so I'm even surprised I was able to get it to work. I've been like finagling with it for like an hour before the stream. So I kind of have to run back and forth right now to read the questions. So Eric says, drum like patterns reveal your love for music, sir. Yeah. That's so true. So true. That's one thing that I was a musician before I was a nunchuck circus spinner, and it's definitely helped me with my musicality and trying to like make things flow and figuring out how to present things too. And there's a lot of similarities, but maybe that's a different topic for when I'm surrounded by a bunch of musicians. We can talk about how they're related. But yeah, no, I remember the good old days. That guy Eric that commented, we were in a rock band a long time ago. God, like 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Alex says flexible weapons are usually more difficult to master. Yeah, I can agree with that. You know, it's just big floppy, just a big floppy stick. There is a degree though, like everything has a balance. But yeah, generally speaking, I think the longer the flexible prop is, the more challenging it can be, because you have to always maintain a certain tautness, certain tensity, right? So the longer it is, the more you have to kind of like have that kind of control over all that rope. But it's going to want to do its own thing if you let it. So you definitely have to like work on trying to dominate that thing. All right. You're welcome, Santiago. OG says, where can I buy a good pair? Good pair of chucks. I mean, I get my chucks from Dark Monk. So these are the Dark Monk chucks that they usually sell. I like these. I worked with Chad to help design these kinds of chucks. They're pretty, I don't want to say they're not light. I mean, they're not weighted at the end, but because of their fat ends, there's a lot of weight that goes to the end of it, which really gives a really nice momentum. These are a little bit heavier. I would compare them to like maybe a mid-range oak, but they still have a nice decent padding to them. I like them. I enjoy these chucks. These are good. That's Dark Monk. They're the Dark Monk Studio chucks. We went through about 10 renditions, and I was just telling them the things I liked about each individual one. They are a little bit on the heavier side, though. Other things you can do is you can go to like Century if you wanted lightweight or XMA style chucks. Century Martial Arts, they have a ton of different chucks that you can choose from as well. It really depends on what your goal is, right? So with these chucks, these are more for, I would say, like, these gear me up for performing. So I am a fire dancer by nature, so these things have a similar weight to the props that I use when I light them on fire. So I kind of like that. It's a nice transition. I don't have to like work so hard when I make that transition. But there's all different kinds of chucks that you can use. You can make your own chucks out of out of magazines. I mean, you can do all kinds of things. So in the end, it's really about just like, and I think I've said this before, but instead of looking for the perfect chuck, sometimes it's about learning to adapt to every single chuck you grab, because they're all going to be different. And instead of thinking one is better or worse, just think about think about what each one does better, because there's going to be pros for a lot of them. And then also, because your style is going to change depending on what chuck you grab. It'd be smart to. Like, if you have the same style and you grab different pairs of chucks, you'll find some chucks are worse and some chucks are better. But if you have an adaptable style, then you'll find you can pick up just about any chuck and just realize different techniques are better than others. Let's see. It's your boy Johnny. Oh, interesting. Thanks. Yeah, you're welcome. On the topic of flexible weapons, have you ever tried a 3-section staff before? Yeah, I have. I haven't used it enough though. Not enough. Again, with something like a 3-section staff, it's something you'd really want to put a lot of time into doing. I've mostly focused on nunchuck, staff, double staff, a little bit of sword. You've probably seen that. If you've been watching my Instagram, I had a pretty cool sword video that I posted not too long ago. And I built my own staff called an H staff. I haven't used a 3-section staff too much. I know a couple people have been telling me, there's props people have been telling me I need to work with. A levy wand, a scythe, yeah, and a 3-section staff. And a rope dart. Those have been like really popular ones that people have asked me to try out. I have used a rope dart though. I find that I think rope darts are really fun. But I have not used a 3-section staff enough to want to showcase it. Yep, floppy stick. That reminds me of that video. I wonder if you're referencing that. Anyways, give me just a second here. Yeah, Alex says, good way to explain it, dude. Even within nunchucks, domination of the rope section is crucial. I'm looking at 3-sectional at some point in the near future, as I always wanted to learn. How is your Cerberus training going? I haven't played with Cerberus in a while, to be honest. Give me just a second here. Let me see if I can pull them out. Alex is wondering how my Cerberus chucks training is going. Unfortunately, I haven't worked with these chucks in a minute, but I still have all the old moves that I've been playing with. This thing is a monster. Like, the thing about the Cerberus chucks is you always have to keep it going, and the chuck is always almost about to hit you, so you have to like redirect it fast. So like if I'm going through here, for instance, it's gonna want to hit my arm until I roll it over to the top and fling it over to the side. So you'll notice there's a lot of flinging motions. But I mean, just being able to do this, to me, is just super fun. Like, Cerberus chucks, yeah, super fun. If you want to build your own, I mean, I think Dark Monk sells these too as well, but I don't know if it's on their website, but it's fun stuff, man. It's definitely a lot harder. Definitely a lot harder to get that extra nunchuck on there. But like I said, there's some really cool traps that you can do with these things. I'm sure that there's also going to be some manipulations. I just haven't worked it enough yet. This was sent to me by Chad just to experiment and explore, and I actually really like them. You guys, if you see all the stuff that I'm working on, if you watch my Instagram, you're going to notice I post a different video every day, and it's like I'm working on all different kinds of stuff, not just this stuff, but also I do a lot of technology stuff. So I do a lot of animation type things. I don't know, you'd have to see it on the Instagram and you'll understand. So I think the big question really is just the time I have to do these things. OG says, thanks bro, you're a lot of help. You're most welcome. And Alex says, you got this bro, plenty of years to come yet. Yeah, man, and that's just it. There's years and years to get all these things down. So I'm still looking forward to the day that I can sit down and play around with these props a little bit more. But I mean, like I said, I just started falling in love with the sword again. Like, I was really enjoying just the way that the sword can move. I don't know. So it's like, or two swords, you know? Like, it's just like, I always feel like there's always something. There's always something to work on. I don't know, there's always something fun to work with. So yeah, I just kind of have props just lying all around my apartment. All right, with that said, we're getting to about an hour, so I'm gonna, well, I guess we're like more to like 45 minutes. Let's start getting in the final few questions. I'll answer a few more questions. Hope you guys have been enjoying this, by the way. Please feel free to ask me anything you want as well. And of course, like I want to do this again. Maybe we can try again for next week. Let me see. What about a 3-sword style? Yeah, that would be crazy. I would hold 2 in my hand and 1 with my big toe, or would I be juggling it? Would I just always keep it in the air? Just throw it up, slash the 2, throw the next one up, grab that one. A long time ago, I tried to develop a 3-chuck style, but it didn't quite work. It just felt like a lot of work. I mean, you can make it work, but usually when you do 3 chucks, either you're doing like this weird wonky grip where you're holding the chuck like this, so you're doing this. I mean, you can definitely make 3 chucks work. I just haven't gotten it to a point where I've liked it. Or you can do it where it's resting on something, so you have it resting, for instance, on your back, and then all of a sudden you switch it out with the other chuck, you know, or you like swing it around and get it stuck on your leg or something, and while it's spinning on your leg, then you grab the other. Like there's creative ways, but I just felt like none of it really. In the end, I kind of felt like 3 chucks kind of made it a little goofy. I haven't been able to get a good 3 chuck routine out. But I mean, if you can do 3, why not do 5? Awesome. Is there any last questions that we have for this stream? Again, if you do have more questions and I'm not around, sometimes it's a little bit hard for me to respond to the YouTube comments just because it's flooded. Like so many YouTube comments, and I do love it. There's days where I'll just sit down and just knock out a few hours and try to answer them all at once. That's usually what I do. But you can also email me. So my email address is just kenhillfire, KenHillfire @gmail.com. If you have like any questions or whatnot, next big video, I can always answer them there too. Oh, I see. It's your boy Johnny says you can hold the sword in your mouth like Zorro. I got you. And also like Kenshin. I don't know if you guys, well, that's a whole nother ballpark. But yeah, that Kenshin movie just came out on Netflix not too long ago, and he was fighting people with a sword in his mouth as well. Please end your live with a short combo of nunchucks. All right, cool. So I think we'll end this live stream, and I'll just do a couple of flow type things here, and we'll just go with that. So do a couple of flow moves. You can kind of see where we're going with it. We'll do 1. Oops. With that said, I hope you all have a great week. Thank you for watching this stream, and I will talk to you all soon. Thanks again. Really appreciate it. All right, y'all. Take care.